So something happened this week that I certainly didn't have on my bingo card, and that was the attempted suicide of a video game engine. So you've probably seen things about it recently. It's all over Twitter. It's all over their Discord. It's all over all this stuff. But apparently Godot, Godot, with the same name as the guy from the absurdist play Waiting for Godot, is a video game engine, to help people produce video games. And they had it. I hate all this factional fighting stuff because like it could have been like basically the community manager, who is some absurd, crazy, hyper woke leftist person, posted a thing about, hey, let's see your woke games for Godot. I guess Godot is woko or whatever. And like they got a little bit of pushback at first, and their solution was not to be like, well, okay, so look, you can't stop woke people from making things. They usually do a pretty poor job of it, but you can't stop them from trying. So it's but at the same time, they also can't take any criticism, which is one of the reasons why the stuff that they create is so often bad, right? Like it's because when they got a little bit of pushback about being a woke game engine, which is a stupid thing that isn't even doesn't is even it's not even sensical for an open source game production engine. Like, you can use Godot without paying them anything. You can just use it, and you can make whatever woke or anti-woke game you want out of that engine. And so, like, they're like, hey, let's they basically started off as like, show us your woke games. And then a couple of people were like, oh, not more of this woke crap. And then there was a couple, and instead of being reasonable and saying, okay, yeah, I mean, we hear you, but at the same time, we thought it would be fun to, highlight a couple of these games that are from this perspective. And, we're not saying anything bad about games that aren't from this perspective, but, we just wanted to kind of spice things up, and we thought it would be fun to show off some of these games that have this particular perspective, right? Instead of doing that, instead of doing something sensible and reasonable, they started banning people who gave even the smallest amount of pushback against this tweet, including people that just like quoted like the creator of Godot, who's currently like a technical advisor, Juan something or other, said like, I don't know what's going on, and I guess I'll have to look into it. And someone posted that as a reply, and they got banned. There was someone who said something very constructive, which was like, hey, I mean, like, I appreciate you're doing this kind of stuff, but at the same time, maybe you guys should be working on making your code better, because here's a specific problem that I'm having with bitmap fonts, and you guys haven't handled it yet, and I'm really hoping that you handle it because I have to write a bunch of code to deal with it as long as you guys don't fix it yourselves. And they got banned. There was a guy who was mildly critical, who was like a gigantic... My understanding is that they were a $100 a month contributor to the Godot Foundation. They got banned. And so this whole thing spiraled into this bizarre, like, ban festival where a thin-skinned person couldn't take any little bit of criticism and decided to start banning everyone else and screaming about them in other posts at the same time. And screaming really filthy things like oh yeah, these people should all die, and banning them as a service so that they can be isolated like they should be, and blah 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 blah. There's even some stuff that sounded kind of like veiled violent threat kind of stuff, and like, bleh, why? For some, if you're gonna post woke stuff, you're gonna get pushback. If you post anti-woke stuff, you're gonna get pushback. So you have to be prepared for it in either direction that you go. It just comes from other sides. And so, like, I don't know. It's amazing to see Godot. Oh, and then today, apparently, Godot published this non-apology thing where they're like, if you think you were banned by mistake, please fill out this intrusive Google Docs form to see if we'll possibly unban you. And it was like, show us the post. And it's like, well, it was deleted because I was banned, and then the post was deleted, so it's gone. I don't have any more. What's your justification for this post? It's like, I was asking a question about bitmap fonts, right? It's like, it's very inquisitional, guilty until proven innocent kind of feeling to it. And like, I've been gaming since 1986. My first video games were when I was about 3 years old. My uncle had an Atari, the one that could play the previous generation's games as well as its own. It was a 7800, I think. And I played Sequest and Barnstormer and Boxing and Pitfall 2 on that, and that was 1986. I was 3 years old, and I've been playing video games ever since. I love them. Some of my favorite stories come from video games. Final Fantasy VI is one of them. The Wild Arms series. I love Wild Arms 2's story. There's a lot of really good writing in video games, and one of the great things about technology today is that there are these game engines that allow someone like me, who doesn't like coding and doesn't have a lot of experience in coding, to think about the possibility of, I could turn this narrative that I'm working on into a game relatively easily. You buy or you commission art assets, you get some royalty-free music and sound effects, and you put it together into something that people might actually enjoy. And so there's a lot of opportunities for people, both woke and anti-woke and in the middle, neutral people, to make really good stories in video games these days. The opportunity is better than it's ever been before. And, it's just crazy to me to see an engine like this, especially an open source engine, where they can't enforce anything on you, right? It's like, no, I'm not going to pay you any money. I'm just going to use your engine to go whole hog in one direction or the other. If I were a community manager for a foundation like that, here would be my rules. Number 1, find good games and promote them. Number 2, find obscure but useful bits of like code or hints in the tutorials or in the documentation and post about those. 3, talk with game creators and maybe have a podcast or an interview or even a written interview where you just go back and forth about people who've made games using your engine. And 4, keep a neutral, even tone and promote things because they're good, not because they fit into any particular political thing. Like, if it were me, I would try to find a couple of good woke games and say, here is a game that is cool, take a look at it. And I would try to find some non-woke games and say, here is a game that has some cool this and cool that, check it out, right? And like, it wouldn't be a competition in any sense. And of course, when inevitably there was criticism of something that I posted, it'd be like, hey, you're free to have your opinion, right? That would be how I would run one of these community things if I was a community manager for Godot or a similar engine or something like that. It seems common sense. You don't pull yourself under fire. You promote things, from various perspectives that are good because they're good games and not because they necessarily agree or disagree with you, right? You don't want to, with all this factionalism, you get these people who just spend all this time like moaning and complaining about things, and it's just like, it gets a little tiring sometimes. I don't know. That's just me. Anyway, just a few thoughts on this, because I thought it was a bizarre piece of news to happen. I'm not going to worry too much about posting like screenshots or whatever, because probably most of you have heard of this already, and hopefully I've given enough details that maybe it won't be necessary. Other thing going on is that my new, I guess technically it's a novelette, which is such a goofy word. But I finished, I think I'm done with The Chasm of Color. I went through it again today. Today's Monday. It's the September 30th. And I went through it again today, and I added about 1,500 words to it. And then I formatted it up for Amazon, for Kindle, and I'm going to try. I've never done Kindle, like the Kindle Direct thing where you're exclusive to Kindle. I've never done that before, so I'm going to try that for a bit. I'm also going to use this book as an opportunity to try making a paperback and a hardback, because I've never done that before either. So hopefully those will be out in the next couple of days. But that's kind of my plan for this week as far as fiction writing goes, is to finish those up. And then finally I'll have that book out of the way, because it's been scratching at the back of my head for the last couple of months, just getting it just right and polishing it and adding things to it and making it into a really solid story. And so I'm really pleased with it right now. And so I'll probably be throwing that out in the next couple of days. Check the blog for a thing. I might make a book trailer for it or something in the next few days as well. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, just some weird news with Godot, because I was actually looking into Godot as something that I could maybe make something out of, and like I probably still will. I'm not inclined to change my choice from like a open source system to a closed source system, and like the fact that they're like, oh, we're super woke now doesn't. I mean, it bothers me, but it also doesn't like stop me. You know what I mean? Like I'm actually thinking about like making like some kind of crazy, deliberately inflammatory anti-woke game in Godot just as a point, just to make the point. But realistically, I don't know if I'll actually have the time for that, and somebody else will probably do a much better job than I would. But yeah, it's just weird news. It's very weird to see like something. You never expect a game engine to kill itself over the course of a couple of days, but this is basically what has happened. And like, I don't know if someone's going to fork it and like they're going to start a new foundation. Like I was thinking about hosting a fork on my website myself, just for the sake of having it. You know what I mean? Because I mean, one of the things that happens when they switch over to this like hyper political stance is that actual coding goes out the door, right? They're not worried about actual productivity in that sense. It's all about rah, team. And so, if that's the direction that they're going, Godot might be dead in the water anyway, and it might need new developers to actually move the engine forward and have it keep up with competitors like Unity and Unreal Engine and stuff like that. So, I don't know. It's a bizarre situation, and yeah, if you haven't heard about it, well, I'm glad I was able to explain it to you. If you have heard about it, let me know what you think in the comments or something like that. Like I've said before, I always hate like saying, "Oh, like and subscribe." You know what you can do if you want to help out the channel. No obligation to do that, but I still would really enjoy more feedback, if possible, and positive or negative feedback, whatever you think. And, feedback on my books too. Haha, cha-ching, cha-ching. Anyway, that's all I've got for you for today, in the sense that this is all I'm going to actually record for today. I've been poking at that stupid novelette, such a dumb word, poking at the Chasm of Color for the entire day, and I think it's done. So, yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Oh, one more thing. I think my next book review is going to be John Douglas's, I hope I got his name right, John A. Douglas's The Black Crown. It's going to be a fun review. I'll just leave it at that for the moment. Because I've read 4 chapters. Yeah, 4 chapters. And it's been a or more like it's been a roller coaster of quality so far. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, thanks again, and I will see you all next time. Have a good week.